Imagine this situation. A couple decides to divorce. They both love their child, but they disagree on who the child should live with. The mother says, I should have custody because I've been the primary caregiver. The father replies, I have the right to spend equal time with my child. The court must decide what is in the best interest of the child, not just what the parents want. This is where child custody law and parental rights become central. In this lesson, we will learn how to explain these issues step by step in clear legal English. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to use vocabulary like custody, parental rights, guardianship, visitation, joint custody, sole custody, and best interest of the child. You will be able to explain custody arrangements and parental responsibilities clearly. We'll practice grammar, modal verbs specifically, must, may, can, and cannot, to express legal obligations and permissions. We will apply legal phrases such as award custody, grant visitation rights, act in the child's best interest, and exercise parental responsibility. This will help you discuss custody disputes and parental rights professionally and accurately. Let's begin with a story. A couple in Argentina decides to divorce. They have an 8-year-old son. Both parents want custody. The mother argues, I should have custody. I've cared for him every day since birth. The father replies, I also have parental rights. I can provide a safe home, and I want equal time with my son. The case goes to family court. The judge explains, our main concern is the best interest of the child. We will consider who has been the primary caregiver, each parent's financial stability, and the child's emotional well-being. Custody may be joint, shared, or sole, one parent. The non-custodial parent will usually receive visitation rights. The parents realize this is not about winning or losing. We hope they realize that. It is about ensuring the child grows up in a safe and supportive environment. This story shows how custody disputes are resolved through law, not just through parental arguments. Custody means the legal responsibility for a child's care, including decisions about education, health, and daily life. For example, the court awarded custody of the child to the mother. Let's look at a story. After divorce, the court must decide who will have custody. The lawyer explains, custody is not about punishing one parent. It is about protecting the child's best interest. Custody can be joint, which is to be shared by both parents, or sole custody, where one parent only has custody. Parental rights refer to the authority parents have to raise their children and make decisions about education, health, and religion, among other things. For example, both parents have parental rights, even after separation. Let's take a look at a story. A father worries that after divorce, he will lose all rights. The lawyer explains, you still have parental rights, unless the court removes them for serious reasons. Both parents keep their rights, even if only one has custody. Parental rights are fundamental, but they must be exercised responsibly and always in the best interest of the child. Guardianship arises when someone other than the parent is legally responsible for the child. This might happen if the parents die, are absent, or unable to care for the child. For example, the uncle was granted guardianship of his niece. Let's look at a story. A young girl's parents die in an accident. The court grants guardianship to her aunt, who now has the legal duty to care for her. The lawyer explains, guardianship protects children when parents cannot fulfill their role for whatever reason. Visitation is the right of the parent who does not have custody to see and spend time with their child. For example, the father was granted visitation every weekend. A common story. After divorce, the mother has custody. The father asks, "Can I still see my son?" And the lawyer explains, "Yes." The court will usually grant visitation rights unless it is unsafe for the child. Visitation protects the bond between parent and child, even without custody. The best interest of the child is the key standard in family law. It means decisions must focus on the child's health, safety, and happiness, not the parent's wishes. For example, custody decisions are based on the best interest of the child. A common story. Both parents want sole custody. The court reviews school reports, living conditions, and emotional support. The judge explains, "Our decision is not about the parents. It is about the child's best interest." This principle ensures fairness and child protection. Joint custody means both parents share responsibility for raising the child. They must cooperate in making important decisions. For example, the parents agreed to joint custody after their divorce. Let's look at a story. A judge explains, "The child will live with each parent part of the time. You must work together on education and health decisions. Joint custody works best when parents communicate and put the child first, which is not always easy." Sole custody means only one parent has the legal right to make major decisions for the child. For example, the mother was granted sole custody of the child. Let's look at a story. A father has a history of violence. The court decides, for the child's safety, custody will be granted solely to the mother. The non-custodial parent may still receive visitation, but the main responsibility is with the custodial parent. Parental responsibility means the duties parents have to care for their child's health, education, and development. For example, both parents must exercise parental responsibility. For example, a lawyer explains to divorcing parents, "Even if custody changes, you both still have parental responsibility. You must provide support and act in the child's best interest." This concept highlights that rights come with duties. Must expresses a strong obligation, something the law requires. For example, parents must act in the best interest of the child. This is a legal duty. Example 2. Both parents must provide financial support. Even after the divorce, this obligation continues. For example, in court, the judge explains, "You must both attend mediation before the custody hearing." The word must shows it's not optional. It is a legal obligation. May expresses formal permission, something allowed by the law or granted by the court. First example, the non-custodial parent may visit the child on weekends. The court gives this permission. Second example, parents may request a modification of custody arrangements. This means the law allows it. Let's look at it in more detail. A lawyer tells a client, "You may appeal the custody order if circumstances change." The court allows that. Using may sounds legal, formal, and precise. Can is used to show what is legally possible or allowed. For example, a parent can apply for joint custody. Cannot shows prohibition, what the law forbids or doesn't allow. For example, parents cannot neglect their child's needs. For example, a custodial parent cannot deny court-ordered visitation. Let's look at a story. The judge tells the mother, "You cannot refuse visitation. The father can see the child according to the order." These modals make it clear what parents are legally able or unable to do. To award custody means the judge decides which parent, or both, will have the legal responsibility for the child. For example, the court awarded custody to the mother. Let's look at a story. In a divorce case, both parents request custody. The judge considers the evidence and announces custody is awarded to the father, as this arrangement best serves the child's interests. This phrase is key when discussing outcomes of custody cases. To grant visitation rights means the court permits the non-custodial parent to have regular contact with the child. For example, the judge granted visitation rights to the father. Let's look at it in more detail. The court gives custody to the mother. The father worries. Will I see my daughter? The lawyer explains yes. The judge will grant visitation rights, perhaps every weekend or during holidays. This phrase shows that even without custody, parental contact is protected. To act in the child's best interest means to put the child's needs before personal desires. This is the guiding principle in custody law. For example, parents must act in the child's best interest at all times. Let's look at it in more detail. The parents argue about who should have custody. The judge reminds them, this case is not about your conflict. You must act in the child's best interest. That is the only standard we use. This phrase is central in family law worldwide. To exercise parental responsibility means to fulfill the duties of raising, protecting, and providing for a child. For example, both parents exercise parental responsibility after divorce. Let's look at a story. Even after divorce, the lawyer explains to both parents, you still exercise parental responsibility. Education, healthcare, and financial support remain your duties. This phrase highlights that responsibility does not end with separation. Let's explore some common expressions in child custody law. Custody dispute, a legal conflict between parents over custody. For example, the custody dispute lasted for several months. For example, after separation, both parents want custody. The lawyer explains this is now a custody dispute. The judge will decide. Number 2, the family court. That's the court that handles divorce, custody, and parental rights cases. For example, the case was heard in family court. Let's look at a story. A father asks, where will my case be decided? The lawyer answers, in family court. That's the court that handles custody. Non-custodial parent, which is the parent without custody, who may still have visitation rights. For example, the non-custodial parent pays child support. For example, after custody is awarded to the mother, the father becomes the non-custodial parent. The lawyer reminds him, you still have rights and duties such as child support. Shared parenting arrangement. This is a plan where both parents share time and duties. For example, they agreed to a shared parenting arrangement after mediation. Let's look at a story in more detail. Instead of fighting, parents reach an agreement and they say, we will alternate weeks and both make important decisions together. This arrangement works when parents cooperate for the child's benefit. Let's bring everything together with a new story. A couple in Spain separates after living together for years, but never married. They have a 6-year-old daughter. At first, the local child welfare agency grants temporary custody to the mother because she is the primary caregiver. The father, however, insists, I also have parental rights. I can provide financial support and I want equal time. The case goes to family court. The judge explains, both parents must act in the child's best interest. The mother has custody now, but the father is not simply a non custodial parent. He may request visitation, and we will consider joint custody. You cannot use custody to punish each other. You must comply with the court orders. And after reviewing the facts, the court decides custody is awarded jointly. A shared parenting arrangement is created. The child will spend alternate weeks with each parent. Both parents continue to exercise parental responsibility and share decision making. The lawyer explains to the father, this is a positive outcome. You can now be fully involved in your daughter's life, but you must comply with the arrangement. If disputes arise, you may file an appeal. This story shows how vocabulary, grammar, legal phrases, and key expressions combine to explain real custody outcomes. Let's review what you learned today about child custody and parental rights. First, we explored key vocabulary: custody, parental rights, guardianship, visitation, best interest of the child, joint custody, sole custody, and parental responsibility. Second, we practice grammar with modal verbs: must for obligations, may for permission, can and cannot for ability and prohibition. Third, we applied legal phrases: award custody, grant visitation rights, act in the child's best interest, and exercise parental responsibility. And fourth, we worked with key expressions: custody dispute, family court, non custodial parent, and shared parenting arrangement. And finally, like always, we followed with a wrap up story showing how a court created a shared parenting arrangement to protect the child's best interest. Now you can confidently explain child custody and parental rights in clear, professional, legal English.